One of the features of OmniFocus 1 that a lot of us have been waiting a long time for in OmniFocus 2 for Mac is that of styling and being able to tweak and alter the colors of the view and the whole window of the whole application without having to do any custom coding or without just selecting default themes, being able to go in and tweak specific pieces however you want. And this was something that you saw heavily in OmniFocus 1, but was non-existent in 2 when it was first released. Well, it's been released now, and you have a couple options that are built into it. So if we go to the settings, we did this a little bit in the preferences, but if you look at this color palette here in the center, we can shift that from light to dark. And I like to have the dark views of pretty much everything if it's possible. So for me, I tend to operate right here. But you'll notice that below that, you can also create your own styles. So just for demonstration here, let's go ahead and switch back to that light view. And then let's export that current style. And of course, it's going to ask me where I want to put this and all the information I want to include with that. So let's just give it a simple title. We're going to call it minimal. And I want this to include both the fonts and the colors. So let's export that. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can edit that style now that it is exported. So let's go ahead and open that file up. And you'll see here that I've got that minimal OmniFocus style. If I double click it, it's going to try to install it in OmniFocus. You'll notice here that I have that installed in OmniFocus. So if I want to edit that though, I simply do a right click. We can do an open with, and I would typically do this in Sublime Text, but I'm going to do it in Text Edit now just for demonstration. But you can see here now that there are a lot of really confusing keys and a lot of information here that the vast majority of people are going to have a hard time understanding and realizing even how to read this. So it's XML. If you're a coder, this is something that's quite familiar with you. If you're not, this is a nightmare. So let's just say we're not going to do this. And thankfully, the Omni Group has developed a specific application that can be used for this. So what we can do is let's go over to Safari where I've got this pulled up, and it's not a supported tool that they have for this quite yet. I think they're still working on it, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But I'll drop the link to this in the resources down below. But you can go to the link and then just download this OmniFocus Colors application. But once you have that installed, you can go to the file that you grabbed whenever you did the export, and then you can open this with that OmniFocus Colors application. And if you open it with that, this is what you're presented with. So let's get OmniFocus open in the background here. So there we go. I've moved this over and made it a little bit easier to see so you can see what's going on OmniFocus at the same time. But ultimately what you can see here is there are a lot of options on what you can alter and how you can change the information about that particular style. And you can spend an awful lot of time going through here and editing all of this information. And it's one that I haven't gone through and done a whole lot with it, but I know that there is quite a bit of discussion about what can you edit and how do you edit it over on the OmniFocus discussion forum. So if you go to the Omni Group discussion site, there is this category called OmniFocus Styles. And there's quite a bit of discussion going on out here about themes. There's theme sharing. There's how do you change certain colors. So there's quite a bit of conversation going on about the program itself. But ultimately, the whole process is to export that theme, make alterations to it, and then once you've got the alterations made to that theme, it's pretty easy to just double-click the theme once you're done with it, and it will import it into OmniFocus, and then it will have the option to activate that. So to activate it, once you've got it installed, you can go back into your settings, and then kind of like what I did whenever I double clicked it, it gave me the option to install it. So once I've got that, I'm set. And sometimes I've seen where you have to quit OmniFocus and then reopen it in order to get that to take effect. It's usually not a big deal, but just be aware of that. That's something you need to do on occasion. But again, for me, I don't do anything with this outside of just setting it on their default dark setting. That's the one that I just prefer to use. It treats me quite well, and I'd rather not mess with it a whole lot. So the one thing that a lot of people complain about with this is there's not a WYSIWYG editor, so there's not a way to make edits and then see what they did and then continue to make tweaks to it in the live system. You always have to make tweaks to the file and then import it in order to see what happened. So it's not a real simple process quite yet. I know they're still working on it, but just be aware that it's a kind of a clunky process right now.